Welcome into Eye on Northeast Kansas, the podcast. This is where we recap some of the top interviews you heard over the past week on WIBW's Eye on Northeast Kansas, the TV show. It streams live Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock Central Time from our WIBW TV studios in the capital of Kansas, the great city of Topeka. We had a very fun week on the red couch at 4. A very fun guest came to town. More on that in a moment, because we also had some serious topics to address. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we are looking at different facets of that issue all month long on Eye on Northeast Kansas. We started by welcoming Michelle McCormick and Anna Avery. They are with the Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence. They gave us an overview of the theme for this month, which has to do with building connected communities. Appreciate you both being here. You work in this every single day, Michelle. And so when you think about what the definition is of sexual violence, what is sexual violence?
Yeah, absolutely. We want folks to know that we're talking about a continuum of behaviors. And so it can be anything from unwanted touch or unwanted verbal abuse that's of a sexual nature, clear through, of course, what we think of as are the most heinous acts of rape and sexual violence. That's pretty extreme.
I think when people think about sexual assault, they're on that far end of the continuum where they think about rape. But how invasive and traumatizing can all those other things on the spectrum be?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that a lot of folks experience sexual harassment, for example, and that can absolutely impact someone's wellness, their mental health, their ability to cope and function at work if it's happening at a workplace, for example. And so the full range of sexual violence can have a pretty significant impact on folks.
The theme for this month is building connected communities. Anna, what does that mean?
Yeah, so building connected communities really allows us to look at the places where we live, where we work, where we play, and allows us to implement primary prevention strategies and address those root causes that lead to sexual violence. And so the more we're able to implement those, the safer communities we can build and connect with one another.
Why is it important for communities to work together outside of themselves, but then also within communities, how people in the various neighborhoods, organizations and things, why is it important for them also to be connected, kind of both levels?
Right. We know that, all forms of violence can be really isolating. And so a sense of belonging and connectedness can foster healing, and it can really decrease the long-term impacts of sexual violence on individuals and communities.
A word we hear sometimes, Michelle, when you think about how we're addressing it, is upstream. So what does it mean to look at this from an upstream point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that intervention is critical, right? And so we want folks who experience sexual violence to know where to get help if they experience it. But what's important is that we can also prevent sexual violence. And that's what we mean when we say going upstream. We're talking about going to the root cause of the issues rather than just addressing the behavior. We're trying to actually prevent folks from having to experience sexual violence to begin with.
Do we know what those root causes are, Anna? What can be some of them that we talk about?
Yeah, so when we're thinking about connected communities and we look at our communities, we can see some of those root causes being those cultural norms that are really pervasive in our culture, and they really normalize and minimize the effects of gender-based violence. And so taking a look at those root causes and challenging those really is going to be what that primary prevention is for communities.
Some people hear that, though, Michelle, and they think, well, are you telling a man that he can never tell a woman she looks nice? Or where is the line that we need to be looking out for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the critical concept that we want folks to really concentrate on is around consent and around building the kind of relationships with folks where you know where those boundaries are, right? And so, we would say you certainly don't have the right to make somebody feel uncomfortable in a sexual nature because that's something you want to do, right? But if you have the kind of relationship with someone where you know what the boundaries are and you can ask them explicitly, is it okay for me, to touch you this way? Is it okay for me to have this conversation with you? You're gaining their consent. And that's what's really critical about this issue.
And the flip side is, I think as a woman, if you aren't comfortable with something, you don't have to take it.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, you might have to also, which is really asking folks to fight a lot of socialization, which is what Anna was speaking to about challenging social norms. We have to really contemplate, how are we sending these messages to folks about how they behave in our culture, and what do we expect them to do differently?
How does oppression play a role in this, and what sexual violence can be used for?
Yeah, so oppression plays a huge role in this, and those social norms are kind of what fosters that oppression, particularly when we're talking about femininity and masculinity, and how those power dynamics can really contribute to individuals experiencing oppression, and then increasing their risk of victimization and perpetration.
Well, there's a whole lot more that we can delve into with this, and we will be. Michelle and Anna and everyone at KCSDV has really had a whole outline that we're going to be looking further into this issue as the month goes on. But the most important part here is to know resources are available. If you or someone you know needs help, the statewide hotline for sexual and domestic violence is 888-363-2287. And you can find resources. There's a great map. It really is a great map, Michelle. It like links all of the different resources all across the state. So you can find something near you. Go to the website for that, kcsdv.org. Michelle, Anna, thank you so very much. Such an important conversation for everybody to have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to be taking a closer look at this very important issue all month. KCSDV is helping us with some of those topics. Well, KBI director will be joining us later this month as well, as we really get a look at what we can do to address sexual violence during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Part of that includes keeping in mind the youngest victims. This is also a month where we recognize child abuse awareness. Lifehouse Child Advocacy Center is a very important entity in Topeka because they take care of interviewing the youngest crime victims, the children. They have a campaign that they are waging all month long. It is their Heroes campaign. They are enlisting men who could be role models from around the community to raise awareness and raise funds to support their efforts. Our anchor here at WIBW, David Oliver, is one of those heroes, and he welcomes some guests to the couch this week to explain this campaign and how it helps.
Our friends Kelly Durkin from Lifehouse and Mike Surrey from Lewis Toyota are here to talk more about the third annual Heroes campaign. Mike and Kelly, good to see you both.
Good to see
Before
you.
we talk about the Heroes campaign, of which I am also a part this year, very proud to be helping out, let's remind our viewers, Kelly, what Lifehouse is all about and the services you provide for some kids in very tough times here in Northeast Kansas.
Sure. Lifehouse is a child advocacy center. We work with children who have been sexually abused, some severe physical abuse, and then some kids who have witnessed some violence. And Lifehouse gets involved early on. These are cases that are being investigated for criminal purposes, and then also the Department for Children and Families. So we get involved at the beginning because you need somebody skilled and trained to talk to children. So we have specially trained forensic interviewers who can talk to the kids, and then advocates who work with the family all the way through the court system if necessary.
Last year alone, Lifehouse did more than 350 of those forensic interviews, so obviously a great need for the service you provide. The Heroes campaign, this is the third annual. You got 16 local men this year. I'm one of them. Mike is one of them. We're helping to raise awareness and money for Lifehouse. You did this last year, Mike.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Heroes campaign and what it means for you.
Well, you know, it's really just a great way to kind of educate the community on what's going on. Lifehouse has been around for plenty of years now. Was it
22?
Yeah, 22 years now, and you really wouldn't think in this community we would have this much of a need. But like you said, 350 plus cases last year. 75% of those were sexual abuse cases, and when you start looking at the demographics of who's actually being affected, it's just a heartbreaking deal. And the more education we can get out of the community and see what we can do to stop this, the better off it's going to be for everybody.
We had a kickoff event this week. We're going to show you some video of an event happening earlier this week where we talked about the campaign. We kind of kicked things off with the different gentlemen here locally who are going to be a part of this. Kelly, again, this is a month-long campaign. We're each individually trying to raise money and awareness, and it's a little bit of a competition between the guys involved. And we should mention, too, this is not to single out men only or leave women out. This is just about men in the community standing up to be strong, supportive voices.
That's true. And I know that seems weird that we only ask men, but about 80% of the perpetrators that perpetrate on children are men. And so we just want to be able to highlight positive men, male role models in our community and have them help us raise awareness.
Mike, we got some great guys involved this year. Tell me some of the other guys. We got Mike Kage, our DA, he's involved.
Right, yeah, third place last year. He did a great job really raising.
Mike was second place last year, yeah.
Yeah, we actually, Brad Lewis, owner of Lewis Automotive Group, he stepped in this year. Glad to have him, and he really, the family really believes in being involved in the community, so it was great for him to partner with us there. We got some folks from Stormont, we got some folks from Core First, there's just a great group of guys that are dedicated and all signed a pledge to be a leader in the community, and that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is these gentlemen all getting together going through their networks and making a positive change in the community.
And we're going to show you how you can give through our website. I've got a link set up right now at WIBW.com. Full disclosure, that link, though, goes to my fundraising page, which I don't get the money. Obviously, I'm raising money for Lifehouse. But again, it's a little bit of a competition here. And so I need you, if you're watching and if you would like to give, to click that link at WIBW.com, and then I'll be able to maybe get first or second this year, Mike. You probably wouldn't like that.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I do have a couple of people that already did donate to me, and that's one Chris Fisher and one Jared Broyles already stepped
really?
up. They wanted
okay.
competition.
It's all good.
For a good cause.
It's all in good fun. And we're trying to raise money to support the great work that Lifehouse does. Obviously, there's a need. And you all were telling me that the money will help support the services, but also perhaps get you in a new building where you need some more space to do some more community outreach as well.
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, Mike's right. We have a great need in this community, and we do serve some of the surrounding counties as well. But most of our work is done here in Shawnee County, and we're on top of each other, and we do need a larger space.
Kelly, thanks for all you do, and the folks over at Lifehouse for the services you provide. Mike, thanks for doing this once again. I appreciate you. I'm glad to be involved, but again, it's all in good fun. A little competition never hurt anybody. Click on the link at WIBW.com, and you're going to help me out to help them. All good?
Absolutely.
Good to see you both.
Thanks, David.
Just look up Lifehouse Child Advocacy Center. David also has donation information on his Facebook page, WIBW David Oliver. Support the cause if you can. These kids certainly deserve our support. Okay, now on to the fun thing that happened this week. The Westridge Mall has been undergoing a rebirth. It's a big mall in the city of Topeka, opened back in the 80s. Some local developers, local entrepreneurs bought it. So it's under local ownership, and they've already made great strides in bringing people and bringing life back to the mall. Our Greater Topeka Partnership, which is the economic development entity organization in the capital city, the Greater Topeka area, always has an annual meeting where they celebrate accomplishments of the past year and look to the future. So this year they decided to go back to the future, if you will, and have an 80s theme for their annual meeting. They decided to have this gathering at Westridge Mall, and in figuring out different ways that they could perhaps carry out that 80s theme, they decided, how about a little 80s music? And what says 80s and what says mall more than pop singer Tiffany? Yes, Tiffany herself came to the capital city to perform during the annual meeting. But before she did that, she came to our studios and had a conversation on the red couch. So welcome to you.
Thank you.
It is such a thrill for Jeremy and I because, you know, we're both 50. So we know you quite
you
well
know,
through
some
your
mall
music.
tours, some 80s. I love it.
You don't regret them all at all? Or you have, I mean, some people think I've been typecast, but you embrace it.
I do. It made me a mean shopaholic. So I'm excited to maybe do some shopping tomorrow as well.
Oh, there's some cool new boutiques that have opened.
As well as rock some, you know, great music. But yeah, I mean, that was where I hung out. I recorded the first album when I was 14, got the record deal, started to go to clubs in, you know, New York. I'm from LA originally, but they started sending me to all the hip clubs in New York. I'd go into the music, everybody be like, and they'd be like, she's got to get out of here. She's too young to be in this club. So they didn't know what to do with me. My label, my management didn't know what to do, and it was looking like I would lose my record deal.
Because if you can't promote and interact with the fans.
Yeah, I couldn't interact with the fans. And so it was a real problem until A&R guy from MCA thought, I'm walking the mall and they have, you know, runway shows and fashion shows and hair shows. Why not music? And then we made it happen.
You were just kind of going with the flow. It's how much of a background did you have even in the music business? You or anybody in your family before you started this out?
Oh, no one. I was always the black sheep in my family. I'm still, you know, the odd bird a little bit. I was always singing. Like I started singing at 2, listening to jingles on, you know, the radio and TV. And that was it. I'd come to dinner and I'd be singing and I wanted to like play in my grandma's wardrobe, my mom's wardrobe. And so, you know, they just thought, well, we'll put her into dancing. So I was a dancer for a long time, and that appeased me for a while. But I've never been shy to get up on stage, and music was my thing. I was just eating and breathing music. So, you know, I would be able to listen to my mom's albums and my cousin later on in life. You know, I had an older cousin, so I got exposed to like Fleetwood Mac and Heart and, you know, Led Zeppelin and stuff. So I made a change there at about 12. from listening to country music, which was what I grew up listening to. And I started to sing first in country music at 9. Tammy Wynette and Loretta Lynn and all the good girls gonna go bad and all the heartbreak and divorce, and they were like, not the material for you. So it took a while to kind of get something that was my own.
But you've come back around, so you have made that pop sound your own, that 80s pop music that is so iconic nowadays. But you've never left music. You've been branching out into other genres as well.
Well, I have a new album out called Shadows, and it's kind of retro rock. So it's great production, modern production now, a little bit more rocky edge than maybe what you think of Tiffany. But it still has all that classic fun that the 80s had. I can't really put my finger on it, but there is something about 80s music that makes us happy.
Oh yeah.
And I love it. People go, do you get tired of singing I Think We're Alone Now? And I go, no. From the moment I go, children behave, everybody goes, ah! We start singing together. It's magical, and I'm forever grateful.
Absolutely. When you talk about, though, going back to kind of the rock music and maybe some country music and all of these things that are in it, how does that reflect on music today and how styles have just continued to be intersecting? We had a gentleman on yesterday who does bougie and brass. It's big band and hip hop combined.
Very cool.
Right? So
I love the combinations. I think it's a great time in music that we can experiment, and you have your different collaborations, and people are just trying different things. And that, social media helps that way, that you can just be backstage. Or even with my band, I have a studio at home called Red Rancho Studios, and my producer and I, we just write and produce, and we welcome other people to come and be creative. And he's a punk rocker at heart, so he's out there, working with other people. So I'm always hearing these jams throughout the house. It's lovely, I mean, if you're a musician, it's just there all the time, and whenever you can be in that creative space is a great place.
I saw you had kind of the podcast where you kind of chronicle the different styles of music and varieties. How much has media changed in how you're able to market yourself, how you're able to find various niches to get your music and your style?
It's changed a lot. Some things I miss. I miss the patience of old school. I miss the rollout. I always go, what's the marketing plan? And how are we rolling it out? And they're like, you just put it out like on Spotify and social, and I'm like, okay, well, that's fun.
You don't wait for a whole album anymore.
But you don't wait for a whole album, which is a great, I'm an independent, so I kind of do everything myself with a small label. But you want to milk that then if you've personally invested into it. So now you can do that. Before it was, the shelf life was about 6 months and that's it. But now you can keep going back. You can remix singles, you can do a video, you can do add-ons, and people just want to be engaged with you, and I'm loving that on social media. I'm learning. Kind
of like how we thought the whole Taylor Swift album was out, but it's just because she kept dropping the singles.
She just keeps going. I'm a Swiftie, so I love that.
I may have had a Tiffany cassette tape that was just one of those that had 2 songs on it, one on each side. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, I'm doing a greatest hits, guys, so that's up and coming. So all your favorites on one album.
Continuing our conversation with Tiffany, of course, the self-proclaimed mall queen of the late 80s. I think that would be fantastic. What I find interesting, you are so positive about that era. I think you see a lot of artists who either have had trouble adjusting once as they age and their career moves on, or who look back on it and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. You embrace it.
I really embrace it. The 80s were fun.
Yeah.
It was a great time. And again, I can't really put my finger on it, but it makes people happy. Like still, people go, I'm in a bad mood, or I'm getting ready to go out someplace, or, I'm just working in my garden, and they put on that 80s music, and it's like, yeah, they got smiles, and I love that.
What was it in your life, though, that helped you avoid some of the drama that other people who rise to stardom so young find themselves?
Probably for me, I had a rocky start, some family issues, a lot of, my family, I love them, they're amazing people. But, they came from, substance abuses and different things that they were struggling with. So when I arrived on the scene in Hollywood at 14, I just kind of knew that wasn't my path already. And, you have money and you have all these people saying yes to you, and you have access to everything. But I just kind of, for me, I was self-patrolling. I mean, I got into a few different things here and there, but not bad, because I just saw how good people can get really caught up in, and it changes their lives in a way that they didn't expect.
We have some young musicians in the studio today. They hope for a career in music as well. What would be your advice to the next generation?
Oh, love everything that you're doing. Work with the best people, even your buddies and your friends. You can't really say if it's going to be successful, but I think if you're doing music and you're having a good time and you're around great people and you're creating and you're growing, that's successful. A lot of people aim for the stars, and you never know. Nowadays on social media, you can be like your own little mini star on YouTube, all these different places. So there's a lot of other avenues that I didn't have when I started. So I just say own it, be yourself, enjoy it, continually feed your craft. For me as a songwriter, I planted myself in Nashville. And that's the biggest thing for me is when I get a chance, I just write songs with other people, write things that I wouldn't really perform, but I'm learning something, I'm trying something new, and I feel like I'm growing.
Is that what the crux of it really is? Love what you do.
Love
because you
what
love
you-
music, and
love
so
what
therefore
you
if you don't
do.
get 12 million views the first time out on the Greatest Hits album.
Don't get discouraged. There's so much going on now on social media. I mean, literally, I'll post something with my dog, and that will get more reviews than like this whole campaign
Right.
where you pay for publicists and you're spending money, and it's like, and then I post a picture with my
Yes.
selfie with my dog, and it's like 10 million likes, and I'm like, okay, that makes no sense. But you just never know. Just keep doing it. Have fun with it. Live out loud. Live your as true as you can, and have fun with it.
Do you perform at a lot of malls anymore?
Here and there.
So this is fun for
but
you tomorrow.
I do shop at the malls. And yes, I'll be shopping and people go, and I'm like, yes, it's me. It's me at a mall. I have fun with it. I do have a mall spidey sense, though. I can tell usually, or I know malls that I've been to. I'm like, oh, right around the corner, there's a mall here. People are like, oh my gosh, that's weird. But yes, I have that gift.
And how fun is it for you to be in that performing space tomorrow in
It's going to be
Topeka?
a blast. This one is a big one. So, knowing that, a couple thousand people are coming and just a celebration of rejuvenation for the mall. I'm so thrilled to be there.
Well, we're excited to have you. And just so everybody knows, yes, this is a Greater Topeka Partnership event, so there will be a ticketed space blocked off for the ticket holders, but everyone is invited to come out to Westridge Mall for free. There will be a space where folks can gather. Tiffany will be taking the stage about 4:30, right? John's over there nodding, about 4:30, so you all can listen to her. It was a thrill seeing you.
Rock some old school with me, guys. We're going to have a blast.
Bring your jean jackets.
Yes.
And big hair. Lots of Aquanet.
People have asked, so what was she like? Yes, she was extremely kind, very gracious. The same day that she was in the studio, we also had some young musicians who perform with the Topeka Youth Symphony, both plan to pursue music for their careers. So Tiffany took time to visit with them, offering her own advice as a young performer getting into the music business. So it was very nice to see their interactions and how they weren't familiar with Tiffany's music because they weren't born yet, but they did have a great time visiting with her. And it was wonderful to see her live at the mall. If you go to my Facebook page, WIBW Melissa Bruner, you can see some of the videos of her performing. Folks, she still rocks it. So it was super fun to get to know Tiffany. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and all of our guests. If you want to see the videos, you can find them on WIBW.com. You can also find them on our WIBW 13 News YouTube page. Just be sure to click subscribe while you're there. And if you want to see our studio selfies, just go to WIBW Melissa Bruner on Facebook. You can get our little behind the scenes look. Glad to have you all along for a listen today. Until next time, we'll see you on the red couch.